All right, so we are about to start. We just go on time and the people will come in and out at any moment. Okay, so this is the first product and investment review. Over the time, the American Botanical Drug Association has been devoted its time and energy in developing, in collaborating with herbal manufacturers around the globe for that purpose. And at the same time, we also had the opportunity to work with a few investment companies to try to solve the issue of that herbal manufacturers are relatively smaller comparing with pharmaceutical company, and how can we advance the product development and research. I hear some feedback, Lee. I have some audio play, but again, this is mission for the company. So I just skip on that. At the same time, we have been working with many organizations around the globe for events and activities. So I'm not going through that. And our experience with many of pre-IND and product development. With that, I will just stop here and I will pass on to Dr. Lee.
Hey. Hello, good morning. This is Shuming Lee from New York Medical College. Our research mainly focuses on food allergy. We have a botanical investigational new drug for food allergy. We have conducted phase 1 and 2. The challenge is still there because transition from practice of botanical medicine to the botanical drug that has to demonstrate outstanding safety and efficacy. There are lots of lessons to learn in this process. So we are still in the development stage, but we hope at some point we'll get FDA's NDA for a botanical drug for treating food allergy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. And Steve, I see you're online. Do you want to give a few words?
Good morning, Roger. Good morning, everybody. Yes, my name is Steve Council. I represent ABDA as the Senior Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, and I'm organizing the International Fund for Botanical Drugs Development. What we are looking to do is to galvanize the pillars of finance that will be responsible for developing. There's research that shows that doing clinical trials of botanical drugs, the #1 issue is lack of financing. And that issue is prevalent because the pharmaceutical industry is not yet fully behind the botanical drug industry from an investment point of view, and that new developments are going to require government, universities, research foundations, and philanthropists to come together in order to fund these clinical developments. And so what we're looking to do is to organize those factions into one group that can get some early successes in terms of getting some drugs into some herbal formulations into clinical trials, and through the process on to become botanical drugs. We're having a lot of traction with other institutes here domestically that have R&D and development capacity that will be available to help us vet the global formulations as they come into play. And we're excited about the prospects of this industry as it is developing, and we're anxious to be a part of it.
Thank you, Steve. Very well said. And Dr. David Allen, you want to have a few words? We just started, and then we'll just transition to the event. Okay, if not, I will just start with the agenda for today. So today is, so Dr. Lee has given a speech, and I want to mention she's from the New York Medical College as a pioneer in this area. Then we have a few presentations. The first one is, I couldn't pronounce the product name, and Professor Tuvia Rusberg is from Israel. She will have the first presentation. Then we have the Lianhua Qingwen, currently in the US FDA phase 2, presented by Dr. Ho Longyun. And then we have another product is in the pre-IND development for rheumatic pain. And we have a product from Canada in dermatitis in US phase 2. Now we have another botanical product just recently indicated for the COVID, anti-COVID. It's in the preclinical stage, and they will present some in vitro, in vivo, and toxicology data. Now we have a break. Now we have open discussion about developing known, safe, and efficacious herbal medicines to prescription botanical drugs. Then in the afternoon, we have originally from UCLA Medical School. There's a product called APG 157, and it is for the head and neck cancer. It's in the US phase 2. And then we have Dr. Lee's a product and for the food allergy. Then we have another product in anti-inflammatory in the preclinical stage. And finally, we have a herbal product for anti-COVID in the current US FDA phase 2. So that's for today. And open discussion about developing already known, safe, and efficacious herbal medicine into botanical drugs. So I'll just spend a couple of minutes to go through the logics, and we'll open up for open discussion. So we know that US FDA botanical drug development guidance, the key points are the plant mixture is allowed, no requirement for mechanism of action, no requirement of molecule structure, and no requirement of identifying active ingredient. Although all those are encouraged, but it's not actually required. As long as botanical products like herbal medicines demonstrate safety and efficacy in phase 1, 2, 3 clinical trials, they are approved as prescription botanical drugs. So for botanical products that may already exist in markets outside the United States, taking them to the US market might be a pathway for drug development, because on the market outside the United States, then their efficacy, safety may already be tested or demonstrated in the daily use. Examples for those botanical drugs in the US, the first one is the Verogen, which is the traditionally from the tea component. It's indicated for for the I think it's indicated in the US for the waltz and its tropical form. In the US, currently, there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 botanical drugs approved on the US market. And probably 2 are very known to many people, and the rest a little bit unknown. This is a chart to demonstrate their current status. And overall, there are about over 40 botanical drug IND applications each year. And by the 2019, there's over 800 botanical IND applications under FDA reviews. Over 60% were allowed into the clinical development. And the others, the rest 40% will request to providing additional preclinical data, like the safety data, and quality control active ingredient, the quality control requirements. The herbal medicine for botanical drug, because FDA allow plant mixture, so it's open doors, because traditional herbal medicines is not just a purified single molecule. It is from one herb or from multiple herbs, mix them together. And the previously used safe herbs have an advantage. FDA is saying that some of the safety evidence already existed, may be able to use as evidence in the preclinical, pre-IND, and phase 1 trials. The GMP requirement, it doesn't start until like phase 2 trials, and complete CMC information, and it's required before phase 3. So when you do the preclinical, pre-IND, phase 1, 2, the CMC information, maybe if you don't have complete that, that's okay. You continue to develop CMC information up to the point you want to initiate your phase 3 trials. That alleviates lots of burdens in the early drug development of botanical drugs. The quality control is required before phase 3 initiation as well, same as the CMC. And the botanical, people are saying that, well, if my product is botanical drug, will I have disadvantage once being approved in the market? No, because the concept of botanical drugs only exists in the FDA IND applications. Once it's on the market, doctors, patients, insurance companies, they only care about indication, safety profile, and the price. No one really know what's the ingredients in it, whether it's a chemical drug or botanical drug. So there's no disadvantage. Maybe there's an advantage, because in this current atmosphere, people willing to have a healthy life. So the botanical product may, as long as indication is there, efficacy is there, and the low safety profile may present an advantage. So the safe and effective herb formulas have a high chance to succeed in clinical trials, because we only select already known products outside the United States to develop them into botanical products, drugs. We are not to develop a brand new formula or to purify ingredients from the herb. Here is a comparison chart of the advantage of developing herbal medicine versus synthetic drugs. So if we purify a single molecule from a herb and then develop that molecule to a drug, that is a synthetic drug process. And we know that this new drug screening stage will take about 3 to 5 years. The success rate is very low. It's about 1 over 5,000. In the pharmaceutical company, they have a robot to do the chemical screening. They have a standard, either tissue or something, to test all kinds of chemical in that. It's a long process and very expensive. Now we're developing herbal medicine, herbal botanical drugs. We don't need to purify those active ingredients. We just treat the formula as a whole. The next one is the preclinical. For the chemical drugs, the preclinical, in vitro, in vivo, pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, those animal toxicology, it takes up to more than a year. and success rate is 1/200. And the clinical development for phase 1, 2, 3, and it's adding up to, to up to 5, 10 years. And success rate is, 1 over less than 20%. And the final approval, because of the chemical drugs, they're getting more, the safety profile sometimes getting them fail at the last step. So overall, the chemical drugs development cost about 5 to 15 years. And it's 1 over 6 million or even 25 million chance to success. In contrast, developing already known effective herbal medicines, there's no requirement of drug screening because we're picking those herbal medicines that showing efficacy and safety outside the United States. Then we can reduce the preclinical phase because lots of data has been accumulated outside the US. We can reuse them for the US FDA application. Because the safety are there and the safety data outside the US may be used to reduce the requirement for phase 1 clinical trials. So phase 1 clinical trials may be shortened or waived by the FDA. And high success rate because we're picking those known efficacious herbal medicines in developing those. The success rate in the late stage clinical trials would be much, much higher. And there are abundant resources, from the Asia, Europe, South Africa. There are traditionally many herbal medicine that's being used in daily life and being used on the market. And it's abundant to choose from to develop. So that's the concept, and and open up to everyone, the voice of opinion and to share their experience. Feel free to. Steve?
Yeah, I happily give some feedback on this. I very happy to see all your slides. Given that I have more or less the same in our investor presentation and depending on the length of it, and I of course share totally your view, which I developed independently before I found out that there is the American Botanical Drug Association, and I'm very happy that you exist and that I hope you can help us in this. One of the issues that causes a difficulty to us is that both pharma and cosmetic industry and self-care industry is very reluctant to go towards botanical drugs as such. And it's good to see that you cited Johnson & Johnson and a few others that develop botanical drugs. And so it's difficult for a company like us, and seeing her the presentation, I guess it's more or less the same for Devonian, is that it's difficult to get backing by the validation in some sense by big players. And this is something that makes it difficult to find novel resources to go forward in the development. Among our shareholders, which are business angels, some of them have quite deep pockets, but the main question is that if what we are doing is so great, and we have also clinical results on eczema on product that we are doing that, and that is available as a cosmetic in Europe. It makes it difficult to get funding just because there is no interest shown by big industry. For us, it's only very recent. That means the last months that we could get into some partnership and recognition from cosmetic players. You would think these ones would be keen to go into it, but until very recently, they were all on, as they called it, precision cosmetics. And so what's really missing is backing or a confirmation and a validation of the interest for botanical drugs. Is there an exit when you invest in a botanical drug company like Alphanosos, or I guess Devonian seems to be the same? Is how will they exit is basically their question. And for us, it has been a blocking, and I hope that now that we have the first partnerships with knowledgeable large companies, but not in the pharma field, only in the cosmetic and self-care field, I hope we will be able to go forward.
Yeah, very good comment, Pastor.
But in the European Union, something like botanical drug is just not existing, not in the regulation. It doesn't exist. Either you have a traditional drug, botanical drug, or you have a single molecule. Something in between they do not even consider.
Yeah, very good comment, Pascal. You know, I just put on the slide, I want to give a little bit the background about why the FDA putting on the botanical drug guidance. As you said, the big pharmaceutical company, they have been developing so fast in the past 40 years, but about 10 years ago, the pipelines start to dry up. So they developed a model to in-licensing product on early stages. So you see lots of smaller chemical research company that develop indications, right? And then sell those drugs to big pharma, out-license them and make profit. So why they're not in-licensing botanical drugs then? We do not know, but my assumption is they don't have personnel or experts within their company to evaluate those products, because their mindset is for a structure of the molecule. If you don't have a structured molecule, the question about how do I protect my intellectual property? How do I make sure the quality of the batch consistent with each other? They have all those kind of questions, and no one within the company is telling them those are manageable challenges, and herbal medicine can be an efficient drug development pathway. But overall, they're looking for wonderful product to in-license. So our model is I think it's still valid, that we generate enough interest, like phase 1 data, and to looking for a big pharma to in-license our product and make forward. We don't have enough resources to develop phase 1, 2, 3 and push into the market. We're really looking forward to a global collaborations with big pharmas, on that purpose. And right now, you're right. No one has doing the big in-licensing right now. For the front runner of the Chinese medicine product treating heart problem, they partner with a company in the US for the phase 3 trial development. So the company is a small company, it's not a big company, but they gave about $15 million up front, with about 40% revenue sharing, and to basically take a significant portion of the drug equity and then putting money down to develop phase 3 trials for that drugs. And I know for the other Chinese botanical drugs that enter phase 2 right now, they are doing the collaboration with other entities in the US for that as well. So at early stage, somehow we have to find a funding to do that, but later on, out licensing is the business model to move forward. I know many products here are looking for that out licensing opportunities, and Steve, David, and Parade, I see you just joined. Feel free to comment on.
Hi, did you call me out?
Yes, yeah. I think you have a wonderful product that you are presenting 10 minutes, and you're looking for out license as well, or you're looking for to develop yourself.
Well, we are developing up to a point ourselves, but we are also looking into licensing as well. Mike, I've been hearing this wonderful commentary that people have been giving. my thinking is that I think big pharma may be slowly opening up in terms of their thinking for the following reasons. As someone mentioned, the pipeline is dry. Secondly, I think despite all the focus on CRISPR and gene therapy and cell therapy, I think people recognize for complex diseases, targeted therapy alone don't cut it. And people are looking at combination therapeutics. So when you look at a combination therapeutic, botanical drugs are ultimate combinations and well tested by nature. Now we have to refine them and do it. So my feeling is that when we have taken an approach like that to present our drugs as a combination therapeutic, working on multiple different things, I've been able to make some opening, and there is more receptivity when you present it that way. But I had a question for the audience, the people who are here. When we talk about pharma companies, generally we are talking about Western pharma companies. I know we heard the one case of Chinese pharma company, but what about, I understand in Korea, in Japan, there are a number of companies that traditionally work in a botanical drug or chemical medicine or TCM. And then also even the large pharma have a portfolio of both the synthetic molecules as well as the botanical drugs. Has any experience working with them? Are they more receptive than, I say, typical Kendall Square company in Boston?
We talk to nearly every pharma company in the world, many mid to large ones, and there's no reception basically in Japan, neither for the ones that we talked with. It's also that very often you speak with middle management whose mission is to find another antibody, another CRISPR, something, and so and when you say the pipeline is dry, those guys at the very top, they know the pipeline is dry, and they would eventually be receptive to botanical drugs with a good level of demonstration, as several of us have already, as to at least go in early. Of course, but you don't reach these guys. I could reach a former CSO of a very large top 10 pharmaceutical company, and he said, "Yeah, what you are doing is great. We see that there's a big potential in there, and but so far we were not able to tackle it. We for instance, it's a long time ago now, but he said we were aware that garlic is definitively demonstrated clinically as good for heart problems, which is known by everybody. It's a big deal. But he said, but when we tried to find out the active principle, and we didn't find any. So no single molecule extracted from garlic was presenting any of the effects that they could measure from the whole garlic. And so they didn't go further. And so the issue is to reach high enough in a pharma company who has a dry pipeline, who is concerned by it, and they would be receptive. But you don't reach these guys. You reach only middle management who is looking for a novel chemical entity or for a novel antibody.
No, a fair point. I think, but this challenge is in any business. I think this is the world we are living in, and I think we need to find out a different way of either reaching those people or find a different way of financing these companies, because we all believe, and I firmly believe after spending some years doing this thing, that there is a tremendous potential and science is solid. It's a matter of up to us. It's take a first success. Now, GW Pharma had a good success, and I think some people are noticing that. So I think Jazz bought them for a significant amount of money. And someone just showed a slide a little while back about 5 or 6 drugs developing. So I think until I don't expect the road to be smooth. That if you have a cell therapy company, even if you have in vitro data right now, the people are really welcoming open arms. I think that won't happen to us anytime soon. But I think it takes few successes and perseverance on our side to figure out, be creatively finance a company, and what they cannot do is nobody can argue with the data. So once we get the data, clinical data particularly. So Pascal, I hear you completely. They also told me that a great idea, great product, all that thing. Come back after you have complete proof of concept. I said, of course. So, but yeah, we'll have to work with it.
I agree. I think that there's a dearth of misinformation as well. There've been challenges, as has been mentioned today, that have been promulgated throughout the botanical drug development experience that we're able to address today, and people don't know it. And I think that getting that message to the right people is going to be a big part of it. But I do believe that the big pharma are looking at it because, you know, we're in an information era now. So they see that between dietary supplements as well as the nutraceutical industry, they see that the patients are going in that direction. And so I'm willing to bet that they're going to begin to look at the botanical sector as their way of hedging against the nutraceutical and being able to meet them head on, which they're traditionally known for doing.
True. So, that is true, and big pharma would. But I think one thing we can all have to think about is the alternate source of funding. There are foundations out there. There are patient advocacy groups. There are philanthropists who don't care about whether which technology. They don't care about technology, but rather other results. And I think that so we need to be more creative on that one. And by the way, in the venture capitalist world, also in a pharma, at least in the Boston area, I can say that most of the large VC funds have become incubated by themselves. And this is not on the radar right now. So there are second level of VC firms, but they are not leaders, they are followers.
Correct. No, you're absolutely right. You know, the research is showing that pharma is not going to take the lead on